Record. Okay, we're recording.
Yay!
Yay. Happy Sunday.
Everybody, I'm Sam.
And I'm Mason.
And you know it's good when you hear right company.
That one was okay.
I mean, it all sounds terrible to me, so I just wait for like the replay, and they're like, oh yeah, that was right.
Yeah, because Sam rewatches these. I don't. Hard pass.
I love rewatching this. It is my favorite thing in the world that I've ever filmed, and I'm talking about like the best stuff I ever did at Shallow 360 does not even compare to how much I enjoy our series. It's like little snapshots of our friendship. So whenever I feel like I'm missing Mason, I just watch them and I just think about how much fun we have together.
That's so sweet. I just hate the sound of my own voice.
Okay. Well, you don't record any stuff for me to be going back and watching new stuff either, so what am I supposed to do?
You can request access to all my privated videos when I did my K-pop channel. I didn't delete them. I just privated everything.
I have to remember that.
Yeah.
But we're on a time... Huh?
I said I go back and rewatch your solo videos. Like when I'm working, I'm like, I need something to listen to. I'll have Sam talk about something good. Like, wow, Sam talked for 3 hours a few weeks ago. I didn't see all of it. I'll watch it.
I feel very called out. This week has been a week of call outs for me, honestly. Like, I sent you that one graphic of the different kind of podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
I felt incredibly attacked.
Because there was this one of the graphs that was like 6 different podcasters, and the fourth one was nerds talking about a show, but the episode that is longer than the actual episode of the show. And I was like, that's us. It's us talking about My Engineer for 2 hours. And our inevitable 9-part series on Make Our Days Count, where we go episode by episode, just being like, look at this. Super good.
We're a mess. But we're already on Tangentville, and you guys came here to talk about The Pornographer and Mood Indigo. Yeah. So let's get into it. First, we need to establish the fact that sequentially, this is a weird one. Because I believe that the first to be released was The Pornographer / The Novelist.
Yeah.
But Mood Indigo, which came out afterwards, is actually a prequel, almost bookend to The Novelist in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not know this when I first watched these shows, because I watched them before Mason did. I thought that The Pornographer was first. And so, or no, I thought Mood Indigo was first. So I watched that first, and then I went back and watched The Novelist. And there's a lot of things that would be very revelatory if you watch them in the correct order. But because I didn't, I have a very different impression, I think, of the series than a lot of people would have if they watched it in order.
So I did the same thing as you did. The reason being is I looked up Mood Indigo on my drama list because I wasn't sure which one was first. And then it said, oh, The Novelist was listed as a sequel. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to watch Mood Indigo first. When I was watching it, I was like, I'm a little confused in some parts. And then I was watching Pornographer, and I was like, oh, this came out first. Got it.
Yeah, and so I feel like there's some things, like in terms of lines being repeated, some behavior that needed to be explained, just some kind of innuendo in The Novelist that is kind of expounded upon in Mood Indigo that would be more of a surprise if you had not watched them in the reverse order.
Right. Yeah, Mood Indigo really just does fill in the cracks of The Pornographer.
Yeah.
And I will say I like Mood Indigo a lot more than I like The Pornographer. I think it's a better story.
Oh, absolutely. So let's do the synopsis, because we always do. Shall you or shall I?
We can each take one.
Okay, well, I will take The Novelist. So The Novelist is really the first one, and The Novelist starts out with an author who's walking down the street, and he gets hit by a man on a bicycle. The man who hits him on the bicycle is a college student, and he doesn't have the money to pay for the medical bills from the broken, I guess, wrist that the author has. So instead, he agrees to become the apprentice / note taker for the author. And he finds out upon their first session that the author is a pornographic novel writer. And he is being asked to take dictation on some very salacious passages. And during that time, he finds himself not only being aroused by the material that he's transcribing, but being aroused by the author and the author's kind of mysterious, otherworldly vibe. And so a pseudo-romance, infatuation, jumble of emotions things happen. And by the end of The Novelist, you really aren't sure where we stand with these two people.
Right.
So it is just kind of like, it's innuendo city. There's nothing is really expressed or spelled out in The Novelist, but that's kind of where we are with that. I believe it is a happy ending of sorts, but it's an open happy ending. And that's where Mood Indigo comes in, that gives you a more concrete happy ending of sorts.
Right. So Mood Indigo starts essentially probably like a couple months, year or so after the Pornographer ends, and this story but however, most of Mood Indigo is a flashback. It's a flashback to how Kido, who is the pornographer, that's his editor. His editor's name is Kido, and they were college classmates. And they kind of rekindled their friendship at a funeral for one of their deceased professors. Rekindle at a funeral, and Rio, who is the pornographer, he is basically a washed-up author. He wrote a book in college, and it won a bunch of awards, and it's like this literary masterpiece. The book was called Mood Indigo. That's where we get the title of the show. And Kido was also going to be a writer, but then he read Mood Indigo and was like, I can't believe someone in my class made this. I am trash garbage. I guess I'll just become an editor instead. So he never writes. He becomes an editor for this pornography book selling, this publishing company. And when Rio is kind of down on his luck, he's got bills to pay, Kido's like, listen, you write well, why don't you write one of these, porn novels and make some quick money? And it's basically how he convinces him to write a porn novel and how they start fucking. All the while, one of the ways that Rio starts writing these novels is he becomes an apprentice for Mr. Gamauda. Pretty sure I'm saying his name wrong. Pretty sure it's not even his name, but it's close to that. Mr. G, he's this old man on his deathbed, and he just spent his whole life writing very popular porn novels, and Rio becomes his apprentice, and that's it. It's just that. It's 6 episodes of that.
Yeah.
And this one does give you it closes the ending on the Pornographer. The ending being that Rio comes back to Tokyo, because at the end of the Pornographer, he went to take care of his family's farm or something, family business somewhere in Japan, not in Tokyo. Comes back to Tokyo, and he kind of tells Kido that he's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna want to stay with Kuzuma. I think that's the kid's name, Kuzuma?
I have Kuzuma. Or Kuzumi.
Kuzumi. So Kuzumi, who is the kid, not the kid, he's a college student. He's now an adult. He's now working full-time at an ad firm. He's like, yeah, I want to stay with him. And then Kuzumi at the end is like, do you want to move in? And Rio doesn't give a full yes, but he's going to say yes. So eventually they're going to move in. But that's the ending. They're together. And Kido is kind of a sad, pitiful man who could never face his fears and decided to stick with the traditional Japanese lifestyle that his parents wanted him to have, and has a wife and kids, but occasionally would fuck Rio on the side every now and then. It's spicy. This is a spicy story.
It's spicy. Anytime I tell anybody to watch this, I'm like, listen, we need to go spicy. There's some things that are going to be said that you have to prepare your mind for. Oh
yeah, beginning of episode 3, shit goes down. You're like,
yeah.
I am.
Yeah. So let's start with the novelist / the pornographer, because number one, this is the most boring side of it all. But also, I think that it's a really good place to start because it is kind of a redemption story even though it doesn't feel like it deserves to be a redemption story, but it is. And then you find out from the mood Indigo kind of what brought him to this place where he needed a redemption.
Yeah.
So with the Novelist, the whole bike accident seems to be something that was kind of orchestrated by the author in a way. Like, it feels like he intentionally made himself an invalid. I'm sure that he didn't mean to get in this accident, but he's like, oh yes, I can't write anything, even though I guess he's ambidextrous, or he's like more or less dominant.
It
So,
definitely
shout out to Mason. Left-handers unite.
It was National Left-Handed Day a few days ago. I got weird texts with that. No gifts.
Facebook is strange.
Yeah. But it definitely felt like a manifest destiny where he was like, I kind of want to die. Maybe not die, but I definitely don't want to be able to have to write anymore. So when he got hit, like, thank God, the jig is up. And then he's like, fuck, it's my non-dominant hand. But he swindles the kid anyways.
Well, he didn't really swindle the kid. Like, the kid offers. Like, to be clear, when they're in the hospital, the kid's like, I can't afford your medical bills. I will get a part-time job. And then he's like, okay, well, do you want to do this for me instead? And the kid's like, I'm on it. Anything I could do to work off this debt. So really, the premise starts with the kid, but it definitely does seem like the author is taking advantage of. And my thought was, maybe he engaged in this because he was looking for inspiration to write. Because spoilers. It is revealed later on that he has had a serious case of writer's block for the past year. And I honestly think that the writer's block is related to the birth of Kiddo's child. Because there's a scene where they're in the dining room and they show the picture of the little girl, and she looks to be about a year old maybe.
Right.
And he hasn't been able to write a book in the last year. And he started writing pornography when he got involved with Kiddo.
Right.
So I have a feeling that that's kind of where the link is. But it seems like he was looking for a real life inspiration to kind of get him back on the horse, if you will. And so he was acting out one of these very dominant scenes from his novels, because all the novels that we hear about involve like May-December romances. So like the first one we read about is like an older man and a really younger girl, and then we get like a teacher with a student, a high school student. And then there's like the married woman with the younger guy. They're all kind of these power dynamic stories with an older person who's more dominant than the younger person, and the younger person kind of being infatuated with this more powerful figure. And that's kind of also the relationship that Kuzumi and Kijima are having in real life, even though they don't fuck until way later on in the game. But still, it's just, it starts out, to me, it seems it starts out that he sets up this situation to have something to write about. And then he realizes towards the end that he is harming someone who is innocent.
Right.
And so instead of trying to be honest and be kind, he decides to terminate their relationship in a way that is cruel. Right. And still is kind of marred with all these lies that he's been feeding this guy the whole time. And the redemption is that he's able to write a book again, but it still feels off. And that's the reason why I think that this particular set of 6 episodes is not nearly as satisfying as Mood Indigo, because you still don't feel any sincerity coming from Kujima in this, or Kijima, Rio. I guess we'll just call him Rio. Everybody's got so many names. You don't feel any sincerity coming off of Rio, and you get the idea that Rio doesn't really change. And that's, I don't know how you redeem somebody who hasn't changed.
Right.
Yeah.
I think another reason that it was like a boring 6 episodes was like, no one really wants anything. Like, it was kind of just them sitting and talking, or standing and talking for like the entire 6 episodes. But like, we don't know what anyone wants or needs. Like, you don't know what year Kuzumi is in school. You don't know what his major is, and you don't know what his life goals are. he literally just comes in, he's like, I guess I'll take care of this man. And then he doesn't want anything. He just is kind of like, I kind of have the hots for teacher. But it's nothing more than that. And same with Rio. And the reason I'm calling him Rio is because there's Kuzumi, Kido, and Kijima. And I'm like, that's too many K names. I'm going to get confused. So I'm going to go with, so Kijima's surname, his last name is Rio. But in Japan, when they say names, they go, it's last name first. So they always say his name is Rio Kijima. So I'm going to call him Rio. He always is standing there smoking, like looking like he has something on his mind. We don't know what it is. And I don't really care.
Very French vibe.
Oh yeah. It's like the Joker. You know, like that. Did you see the new Joker? There's like shots of him in the trailer where he's just standing there smoking, like thinking. And you're like, ooh, it's so edgy, it means something. And it works much better on the Joker because the Joker has like things and wants and needs. But Kijima is just kind of like, I'm here and I can't write my porn books. He should have just started writing yaoi. That's what he should have done, but he was too chicken.
I feel like that's where it went, but they didn't really, when they talked about the description of his last book, they didn't really say pronouns. At least it didn't seem like it in the translation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it
maybe?
was weird though, because I feel like if you're gonna write, the people who are reading porn books are like that, aren't they mostly men?
I mean, yes and no. Like, I know I've read things before that were spicy, and then like, let's not discount the fact that the entire romance novel genre is aimed at the women's market, and that shit is porn. I remember my sister giving me a romance novel when I was a teenager, and throbbing, aching, pounding, all kinds of descriptors for male parts. So yeah, right. Everybody reads porn.
That's in America, but in these, like, all of the novel covers were like women, like no face, just chest area with like her ass hanging out, or like no top, and that feels very geared towards men.
Yes, but the last novel didn't even have any pictures on the cover. It was just blue with like white letters. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm wondering if maybe the last novel was correct.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a mystery to me.
Yeah. I will say across the board, really good acting in both series. Like, all of the acting was really good, very nuanced, but really well done. It always felt like the characters were thinking about something, you know? Mm-hmm. They weren't just standing there. Like, they had a thought in their brain.
Yeah. The guy who plays Rio was excellent. Like, honestly, I think that's the other reason why Mood Indigo is so much better than the Novelist, because the guy who plays Kido and the guy who plays Rio, those two are firecrackers on the screen.
Oh yeah, like, they have a lot of chemistry.
Yeah.
It's really good. Oh man. We'll talk about it when we get to more into Mood Indigo, but yeah, they're really good together. And even the small scenes that they had together in the Pornographer, it was like, oh, there's something here. And I could see why they would see that on screen and be like, oh, we need to make this, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Like, there's, like, when they're talking to each other about the situation with Kuzumi, it's two grown-ups talking to each other, and they both know what the game is. Whereas whenever it is Kuzumi and Rio talking, Rio knows what's going on. Kuzumi has no idea. Right. And that's the reason why when you see the two grown-ups together, it feels a lot more authentic. It feels a lot more kinetic. It just feels way more natural. And like when Rio got drunk and they had to take him to his bedroom, and he goes to like take off his pants and lay him down and everything, there was a moment where I thought he was going to kiss him because he got like really close to his face and neck, but he didn't. And I'm like, yeah, this is a closeness of two people that have been even closer than this.
Oh yeah, because he didn't just like lay him in bed and like put him down. He like put his arm around him and like gently pushed him, laid him onto the bed, and was like,
yeah,
I'll call you later. And then like got up and it was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I had a feeling like the reason that Kido had called, like, remember there was that scene where, like, Kido calls Rio, and Rio's like, no, I don't want to see you. Don't come over. Blah, and, like, hangs up the phone. And then, like, a few days later, Kido shows up. I think Kido was trying to booty call.
I think so, too. I think that they have had this off and on, let's fuck when I'm in town kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you're going to fuck up this new man for me. I need you to stay in the pocket. And he's like, you ain't got no new man. I'm coming in. Because my editor would not have the key to my apartment.
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't just barge in at, like, 10 p.m.
No. You know? A man can barge in, but not my editor. So definitely it speaks to there being a different relationship. But also, like, even when Kido is telling Kuzumi about everything that's going on and about how, you know, it's been a year since he turned in any work and he's kind of fucked up. You shouldn't get involved with him. Like, that didn't sound like, you know, as a man who's trying to help you out because my friend is a little screwy. No, it sounded like, these are games that we play together. Yeah. So.
Man, like, entire time I watched The Pornographer, though, I just kept playing, I just kept thinking of EXID's Every Night, because it's the best booty call song. Mm-hmm. And it's about, like, a booty call that you don't want no more. And I'm like, that's this. That's this.
Yeah. So, staying with The Pornographer, because we're going to need to wrap that up pretty soon. Finally, Rio and Kuzumi acknowledge their feelings for each other. Rio acknowledges all the lies that he told Kuzumi and is like, I'm giving up on being a writer. And Kuzumi's like, I want you to write one last book for me. And Rio's like, how can you do this to me? I've already explained to you how, like, I don't write anymore. I can't write anymore. That's so cruel. And that ends with them doing it 6 times on the floor of the empty house.
On the hardwood floor. There is a bed across the hall.
Is there a bed across the hall? Because the house was empty.
I assume that he's still living there until because he came back. Why would he come back with groceries? He came back with, like, convenience store bag.
I don't know. He might have just came back with, like, a meal, like how you go to Subway and you have a bag of your sandwich and your drink. Like, it didn't seem like it was groceries.
No, yeah, like but, like, why would he come, like, if he was staying in a hotel because he moved out, why would he come back to that place?
I figured he was just going there to finish up because there was, like, a cleaner, like a Swiffer leaned against the cabinetry. So I'm like, well, maybe he came here to, like, the last of his cleanup before he's getting the hell out or getting, like, the last of his things. I don't know, but the place looked empty. There was no furniture in the living room. There was no furniture in the dining room. So it's not hard to assume that there was no furniture in the bedroom. But I also am with you, like, where the hell did the sheets come from?
That's why I'm saying, I think that there was the bed and it was, like, sexier as, like, from, like, a visual standpoint to be like, they fucked on the floor 6 times, you know?
Yeah, they made sure to tell you it was 6 times too.
Yeah.
Like, they specifically said 6, which, good for y'all. But yeah, like, even that, it felt hollow. It felt like manga. Let's put it that way. These stories are both derived from manga, by the way. So if you wanted to read them, they're out there somewhere. But in a way that manga kind of skips over the romance and gets right to the painful, abject fucking, it kind of felt that way with the way they got together. Like, they go from a tearful kind of, I want to write, to, like, being on the floor. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like, how do we get here? Yeah. And then when he wakes up alone, it's not even a surprise because it didn't feel like the lovemaking was us coming to a resolution that we're going to be together. It kind of felt like, this is what I owe you for putting you through all this bullshit. Yeah.
It was like, we need to get rid of some of this sexual tension. We'll do it.
Yeah.
7 if you didn't fall asleep.
So, I mean, by the end of it, you know, they're both in separate locations. One's in his apartment, the other one's at his family house, and they both look relatively contented, but it just doesn't feel like the relationship is fully closed off unless they intended with that. If they didn't plan to do Mood Indigo, if they intended that this was going to button it up. Like, you just have to assume that both people are happy with where they are in their life.
Right.
Which, on the one hand, is not satisfying, but the end of Mood Indigo was even more unsatisfying. So I guess this is a happy ending comparatively, because at the end of Mood Indigo, you're pretty certain that there are two people who are unsatisfied with their lives.
Kido and Rio?
Yes. Like, even though Rio's got a man, Kido's got a wife, you just feel like if both of them could get out of their own way, especially Kido, they could both be much happier.
Yeah. It definitely seems like they have like these lingering feelings of like, if things were different in another lifetime, in another parallel universe, we're together, you know? Which makes you feel...
Okay, let's talk about Mood Indigo.
Putting what?
I said, let's talk about Mood Indigo now, because I feel like it's not proper to give it the rating until we've talked about both, because they kind of melt together.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Mood Indigo was a lot better, because it's like, their tension is interesting, but I also like the characters a little bit more, because like you kind of, like I like their backstory, I like where each character is coming from, I like that Kido is like, he's kind of pitiful, like he's a man that he doesn't quite know what he wants, so he just kind of follows what he thinks he should do, and is just too chicken shit to like do anything about it. And then Rio just, man, not relatable to me because I've never made a masterpiece, but like I kind of get where he's coming from. Of like, at a young age, he had this huge critical acclaim, and nothing he's ever done has lived up to it or sold as well as it. And then, like, by the time he's, like, early 30s, he's, like, washed up, which is sad, you know? And he's, like, an alcoholic. But I like the way that they help each other. I think their progression to, like, fucking is nice. I mean, it's very much helped by the old man. Okay.
It is so abrupt. It is so abrupt.
Get this. So, in order for Mr. G's final novel, because he knows he's on his deathbed, so it's his posthumous novel, he is like, I don't know which publisher to go with, and then Kido's like, well, if you come with us, we'll give you this apprentice for free that'll help you out with anything you need. And he's like, cool. And Mr. G thought he was going to get a female apprentice so he could have a fuck buddy to test out some of the scenes in the book. And when Kido brings Rio, Mr. G is like, absolutely not. I thought I was going to have a girl. No. And then Rio is like, please, sir, please let me do this. I will do anything you want. And Mr. G's like, if you'll do anything I ask, then I'm going to have you suck his dick. And then while Mr. G watches, he sucks his dick. And it's apparently the best blowjob in existence.
I mean, Kido says as much. He's like, I have never come as hard with any woman I've ever slept with as I did in that very moment. And it is quick. You know, within about a minute, he's done. And like the look on his face is like he's dying a slow, agonizing death.
Oh yeah, they like do like all these slow pans and close-ups, and for some reason in all the sex scenes in both shows though, they always play this like jaunty piano music.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? That you're like, why are they playing this? This is not sexy music. This is weird. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like melancholy kind of ghost house music. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's like like it just doesn't.
You're like,
it's otherworldly.
Who's fucking of this? Play Mome.
Play WAP.
Yeah. Play the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack. Like, I know you don't like that song, but Love Me Like You Do. I fuck to that song. That's a good song.
Well, I would rather, you know, WAP. Well, that's what the hair is a tribute to today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, man. Okay, so tell me how you feel about this. Do you get the feeling that Rio has always been gay but didn't realize he was gay until that moment?
Yeah.
Because, like,
they talk about him dating women in college and going through a lot of women. But when he gets to Kido, he kind of stuck on him for a really long time. and then is stuck on Kuzumi for a really long time.
What gave that feeling to me was when him and the old man were in the sex room, and the old man was talking about, yeah, when I was young, I used to tear it up. I whips, chains, whatever. And he's like, what about you? What's your kink? He's like, I'm pretty vanilla. It gets hard and I stick it in. And I'm like, this is a man who has never enjoyed sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because you're playing with the wrong equipment.
Right. Which is why there's that scene where he has the dildo, and when he puts it in his butt, he is real happy because he's like, I'm thinking about keto, putting it in. And he loosens himself up for him. What a team player.
Man, he looked like he was hurt. He looked like that was, I mean, he looked like he wanted it, but at the same time, he looked like he was trying to fit a industrial strength jackhammer up there. The way he looked against that window, also against a window in broad daylight. Hello, freak. But yeah.
Oh, but it made it like a really pretty shot. Like I was like, ooh, the golden hour lighting is like streaming in as he's diddling himself with a dildo. Like, you know, this
Could you imagine being on the set of like a TV show or a movie, like, okay, go down to approaching, get the pants off, it's time to film the scene.
Mm-hmm. That must have been just awkward to film in general. Like you got 10 plus people, PAs, multiple cameramen, the director, some scriptwriter, you know, and, you know, the props designer. They're all just standing there watching you pretend to masturbate with a dildo in your butt. And his pants were like fully down, like off, you know?
Yeah.
It's awkward to film.
But yeah, he just seems like somebody who, like, this literally opened a whole other side to his universe. And it also makes me wonder for Rio, because he's never been gay before, and he obviously not only was open to the idea of giving a man a blowjob, but like is finally getting a craving for sex now that it involves a man. I wonder if kind of the feelings that he attaches to Kiddo are not necessarily feelings of like, I found my soulmate or this is the person I'm in love with. If it's more feelings of like, I don't know that I can get this feeling back with anybody else. And that's part of the reason why the ending of the Novelist could be seen as a happy ending if he's like, I realize I can have the same love feeling towards somebody else. Whereas the end of Mood Indigo, Keto is like, I've never had this feeling with anybody else, and I realize now I can either live the life I'm supposed to, or I can throw it all away to have this feeling with you, and you've already moved on. So and it's very, I don't know how to describe it. These are not boys' love shows to me. These are very much something else.
They just felt like dramas.
Yeah, they're just like dramas that happen to center around some gay activity, but they don't feel like boys' love because there's a lot of really complex emotions going on here. Like, first of all, you're dealing with Rio, who's dealing with the death of a dream and life's disappointments and trying to find a new path and be successful in that new path, because his dream is to be taken seriously as a writer, but he hasn't been successful after his first major success. He's going into writing porn, which he doesn't even take seriously as a literary genre. And also just like he's compromising, because initially at the start of the show, he's like, this is real literature and I'm only going to write real literature. And once he kind of opens his eyes or opens his perspective to pornography, all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, what am I doing? Can this be considered art too? And, you know, am I changing my standards? And then when he finds out that Keto was going to quit his job at the pornography publishing house to go work at a respectable publishing house, he's like, I hate people who aren't proud of what they do. So it seems like a lot of the fight that Rio has throughout the story is him having to deal with his pride and having to deal with like having this, I guess, higher calling he sees for himself, this kind of noble path he sees for himself, and how he's kind of diverging off of this path is making him feel lost because he doesn't see himself being anything but that thing.
Right.
So that to me feels way more complex than what I've seen in a lot of boys love. And that's why it doesn't feel like a boys love, because a lot of boys love is about the relationship.
Right.
This didn't feel like this was about the relationship. It felt like the relationship was the catalyst to so many other life issues that need to be resolved. And then Keto, somebody who, like you said, he just doesn't really have any ambition. Like, he had an ambition to be a writer, but he reads one novel by a guy in his class, and all of a sudden he's like, I'm just never going to write again. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, but you don't have to. You could write something else. And then even like with the whole, my girlfriend wants me to have a different job because this is a job that's considered disgusting or embarrassing. But he says, I like this job. I like doing this. And it's like, you won't even allow yourself to do the thing you like because other people look down on it. Like, that's ridiculous, because it's not even that. It's a job. Right. That's what it is. It's a job. But yeah, like, both of them are going through a lot. And so even though pacing wise it's kind of a slower pace, it's that Japanese style, which is very kind of like, look at the tree outside for 30 seconds. Now let's go back to the room, that kind of thing. Yeah. It still felt like it was just dealing with a lot more than what you typically see. And that made it a lot more interesting to watch.
Right. I also think this did feel a lot slower than most Japanese things in general, though. But I think a lot of that has to do with, there weren't a lot of cuts. It's a lot of one-take shots. It's a lot of, I'm going to sit and we're going to have a scene and the camera's going to slowly pan in and out of the scene, you know? It was a lot of that. So that actually got a little tiring because there was not a lot of rhythm to the shots. It was just kind of like, okay, we're going to be on this shot for 5 minutes while they're talking. Okay, next location. We're going to be on this shot for the next 5 minutes while they're talking. You know?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about our favorite thing. The fucking. This was nasty, y'all.
Okay. The craziest scene. So Mr. G dies. Ding dong dead. Dead in a ditch. And at the funeral, so Rio basically was like one of the few people he like even had like any contact with. Like Mr. G had like a sister, but like she was younger and they that was like his only family, and he had a housekeeper, but for the most part, Rio was like this very much like they had like a father-son relationship. Because he was his like apprentice and the master or whatever. And everyone leaves the funeral and it's just Keto helping clean up, and it's Rio. And they're sitting in front of like, at Japanese funerals, they always have like a photo of the deceased person and like a bunch of white flowers. So they're sitting in front of like that little like kind of shrine area. And then they start kind of yelling at each other. And then they're like, and then Keto's like, Mr. G said, I gotta take care of you and make you loosen up. And then Rio's like,
he didn't mean his anus.
Yeah, and then Rio's like, and what? And then Keto pushes him down, and they get to fucking on the floor in front of the memorial service. And you're like, oh! And then
and they're like, fucking all day. The scene starts in daylight. The moon comes out before they are done.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fucking. And then Keto's like, this is what he wanted. He wanted me to fuck him at his own funeral. And I was like, this is what happened here.
That old man is nasty. Like, my final wish, splooge on my memorial picture.
Yeah, you know, he's looking down from heaven. It's like, that's my boy. You get it.
I mean, and like, they're so, okay, so we talked about this when we were talking about Love by Chance, about how Pete was like, I douched for you. This goes a step further. He's like, I'm going to try the fingers. And now I'm going to put it in. He's like, no, you're too big. You'll stretch me. It's too much. Okay, well, maybe next time. And then when they're at the memorial, he's like, put your legs wider. Oh, you're filling me up. I'm like,
it was a lot. It was like,
is this Pornhub? What the fuck?
Well, because the show is so subtle. and then they start fucking, and you're like, this became a different show.
Yeah. It is definitely a change of pace, of style, and like they play it so straight. It's not like all of a sudden things just get silly and wacky. It's these same serious actors, these same serious demeanors. They are seriously making out, but they're also like,
oh yeah, no, it's intense making out too. Like you're like, oh, that's a lot of tongue. They're going for it.
Yeah. It is. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man, honestly, even the blowjob scenes were like intense. Like there's a scene where they're at Mr. G's house and they sneak off to a room to fuck, and like he is just giving it to him. You're like, oh my god. And then it gets interrupted because Mr. G coughed up a bunch of blood. And you're like, well, that's a boner killer. But like before then was great.
Yeah, like he's like on hands and knees between spread legs, and you're just like,
damn.
Okay. But it actually is quite refreshing to me in a lot of ways, because as a woman, I will tell you this, it is uncomfortable to me sometimes when I watch shows where there are sex scenes and you might could see a guy's back or his bare chest or even maybe a side of thigh, but it's full women's titties hanging out there.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, okay, well, this doesn't feel fair because I feel like one person has a lot more exposure than the other. In this one, it felt like, oh, we're going there. Everybody's getting down today.
Right.
And I could appreciate that. I could really appreciate that they took it there. There's no guesswork here. This is what's happening. And so kudos to y'all for being professionals about this. Because I think I would have died of anxious, anxiety-driven laughter.
Yeah.
I would have made it very uncomfortable for everybody in the room.
Yeah. It was good. Seriously, they really did a good job acting. I'm like really going for it in the sex scene. Like I appreciate that too. Oh, man, they're both so hot.
They're both extremely good-looking men. Like normally we talk about,
ooh, these are men.
Yeah, they are men. Like usually we're talking about guys in their 20s, 30 max when we're talking about a lot of these shows. This show, both of these men are in their 30s, I believe. And they feel like men, they fuck like men, they just are, they're very daddy. And it's very appreciated.
Tito's a daddy, and he got a little rough at times, and I was like, I was like, yeah, okay.
But I mean, I appreciate that energy because that's the energy that gets brought into hetero media all the time. So why not? Why not? Right. So in the end, it looks like Keto has decided that he's going to go the way of Rio, and he's going to continue to work at the porn company. He's not going to go through with his engagement. We're going to start something together. You think. Then you get a clip of several years later. He's at the park with his daughter and his wife. Obviously, he chose the traditional path. It's not the same girl. It's a different girl, but still the traditional path. And on the one hand, Keto doesn't look miserable when he's with his daughter and his wife. Like, he looks like he enjoys his wife. He looks like he adores his daughter. But at the same time, you know, he doesn't take Rio's calls. And when they meet up, you know, he almost is about to kiss him, but then he doesn't. And it's like, he acknowledges he'll always have a flame. He'll always have a flame for him. And you just wonder, like, what happened between getting a wife and making that statement at the funeral that, like, you know, I've decided to do something different. Like, what made him say, I'm going to stick traditional here and I'm going to basically break Rio's heart? Because Rio is in anguish when this thing falls apart. Like, he's at home screaming. And it kind of ruins him in a lot of ways. Like I was saying about the Novelist, he pretty much stops writing once Kiddo has his baby.
Right.
So I don't know, like, what happened there? That could be a whole nother third series. If you guys want to do it, I'll watch. But yeah, like, what happened? Because it feels like Kiddo was ready to really make a go of it with Rio, but I guess maybe Rio's got some other kind of like self-destructive tendencies that maybe Keto just couldn't keep up with anymore. I don't know, because Rio was very self-destructive when Keto met him after the first funeral.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
he was drinking every night, couldn't pay his bills, was living in a house with no hot water. Like, he was just a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also dealing with like issues with his parents never endorsing his dreams, and he was lost in his career. So I'm wondering if maybe like Keto wanted to have something with Rio, but maybe Rio was too damaged at that point and they couldn't really make a go of it. But I really do wonder like what caused them to go where they went. Because even when Rio is with Kuzumi at the end and Kuzumi's like, let's move in together, Rio doesn't say yes right away, and we get the feeling he'll do it, but we also feel like he's doing it because like, I'm finally with someone who loves me. Even if I don't necessarily love him back in the same way, he loves me. So I'm going to try my best to be faithful and make a go of it this time.
Right. It's like he loves that someone loves him more than he loves him back.
And that's one of the reasons why in The Novelist, I think he was attracted to Kuzumi from the beginning, because he says it a couple of different times, you're so honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he felt like Keto lied over and over about his intentions, his motivations, what's actually going on in the background.
Right.
So he's like, I need somebody that I can lie to them, but they don't lie to me.
Right.
And it's sad because on the one hand, I get it. Everybody wants to be the lead character in their own romance. But it's also sad because that electricity, that vibe between those two is still very much there.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess this is where you get those relationships that everybody looks at like, I don't know why those two people are together. Like, they're so toxic with each other, but they keep on going back to each other. Mm-hmm. Like, that's very much Rio and Keto.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. Like, I think it's kind of nice sometimes. Like, as much as I love the nice fluffy stuff with gay media, sometimes it's like, yes, this is realistic. Like, sometimes you just end up in a toxic relationship with people. And I think it's just as important to show things like that as it is the cute stuff, because hetero media portrays all of it. But with gay media, it doesn't. So it's nice to get that.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. I know that it is a bit boring. Trust me, Mood Indigo, the first episode I watched, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna stick with this. Everybody talks about how good it is, but I'm not really feeling the vibes right now. Mm-hmm. But then, you get to the end of episode 2, you're like, okay, I can stick around. Yeah. But it is one of those things where I get that it has kind of a boring vibe, but I really think it's because, unlike what I've gotten from some of the other Japanese stuff we've watched, it almost feels like they're letting your mind breathe, because you're kind of sorting out a lot of what's going on.
Yeah, you're thinking with them.
Yeah, and so I appreciated that. If I had to give a rating, I really want to give a separate rating to Mood Indigo and the Pornographer, because I really feel like the Pornographer just doesn't live up to what Mood Indigo delivers, and mm-hmm. that has everything to do with the storyline and the chemistry between the actors. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if I was doing it as a whole, I would give it a 7. But if I was doing it separate, I would probably give the Pornographer like a 6. I would give Mood Indigo a solid 8.5. Like, mm-hmm. I really, really like it.
Okay. I think I'm going to go a little bit lower. I would give Mood Indigo a 7, and I would give the Pornographer a 6. Mm. I thought Mood Indigo was definitely better, but I will never rewatch it.
Well, I had to rewatch it in order for us to do this. So, I mean, right. On rewatch.
But I won't rewatch it voluntarily, I guess.
Okay.
Like, it won't be like, man, I want to rewatch Mood Indigo,
You might rewatch episode 3.
Okay. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe episode 3 and a little bit of episode 6. You might rewatch those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it just, I really felt it. And I think probably the biggest connection I had with this story is being an adult, and how, like, as you get older, you just compromise a lot. You get to the point where you're like, I would really love to just do whatever the fuck I want to do, but there's so many things riding on me doing what I have to do that I just have to keep going. Mm-hmm. And I felt a lot of that from the characters in Mood Indigo, and I think that's why my personal rating is so high, because I'm like, I get it. I don't know what caused you two to fall apart, but I kind of get it of just, you know, like at some point, if you can even get a part of the dream, that's better than losing it all.
Right.
And that's what it felt like. It felt like each of them got a part of the dream by the end of it. So, that was fun. That was fun. I think I highly recommend watching Mood Indigo. If you don't want to go through the hassle of the pornographer, I get it. Trust me.
You don't have to. I don't think you're missing anything.
No, but if you would like to watch Mood Indigo, highly recommend.
You can watch it. It's like a 2.5 hour movie, a little bit less.
Yeah, highly recommend. I think it's really good. Yeah, and it has some beautiful shots. Like some of the lighting on some of those scenes is just at the funeral when Rio's in the window and the cherry blossom leaves are fluttering past him.
Really pretty.
I was like, this is gorgeous. Yeah. So good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so we're at the tangent section of our show where normally I'll give. Well, really, because like literally the format has so far been introduction, Raikon Topani, talk about the show we're actually talking about, Samantha rants for 15 minutes, then it's Instagram, manga of the day, and then tell you what we're going to watch next. And so, rant. I'm going to try to keep it brief. The last time we met, because we've had a gap week, I was talking about how the shipper was coming to a close and thematically it had really changed and that I was dissatisfied with how it ended. Me and Mason have already talked about this, so I'm not going to harp on it too long. The shipper is now over and I just can't stand the way that they ended that show. They killed off one of the main characters, which we saw that coming at the end of episode 11, but to bring back the other main character, 2 main characters had to kiss, one of them being in the other main character's brother's body. And I just, GMMTV, there had to be a better way to resolve this. There had to be a better way to resolve this. Like, apparently the key to getting the one character back into their original body and for them not to die was for them to receive true love's kiss. But I feel like that could have been handled in a way that was a lot less icky than the way that they did it. It could have been that, you know, Ohm's character could have kissed the girl in the coma, just like a brief touching of lips, and she would have woken up like Sleeping Beauty. It could have been that P. Kim and P. Wei could have had a kiss to seal their true love and to allow him to ascend into heaven while the girl was allowed to go back to her body, whatever. But instead, Ohm's character and the guy who plays his brother in his brother's body have to share a kiss in order for the girl to be able to go back into her body and live the remainder of her life. Mm-hmm. And I just... So apparently incest is not a big deal in a lot of places. Incest of a certain kind. Or people are able to like disassociate incest if it's like, well, it's a body swap thing, so it's not really incest. The optics of it are incest, and I don't like it, and I need it to stop. We're going to have Love by Chance 2, which is going to have Tum and Tar. That's possibly going to be an incestuous story. We don't know how long they've been stepbrothers, but it's nasty as shit. And I'm just done with it. I really am done with it, Thailand. I get it. Maybe there's no laws against it in your country. Maybe it's not considered a big deal because it's by marriage, or maybe it's not a big deal because it's a body swap thing. But you guys are playing on an international playing field, and you know it because you're offering international fan meetings. So you know that it's not just people in Thailand watching. You did the whole still together because you have an international audience. I need you to do better when it comes to incest, sexual assault, some of these other super problematic things, because it makes y'all look crazy, honestly. It makes y'all look fucked up. That this is considered acceptable, so it is a trope that we see repeated over and over again. So that's my rant about the shipper. That show is garbage, and I really hate that Ohm was saddled down with this fucking show because he deserves so much better. I said it last week, I'll say it again. He deserves so much better. So that is my rant for today. Now onto my Instagram of the week. So my Instagram of the week, I did something different. I usually try to relate it to the show, but I didn't want to do the Instagrams of any of the actors from Mood Indigo or the Pornographer just because they were boring. So I decided to pick somebody completely unrelated to that, but slightly related to what I just talked about, Love by Chance. I'm doing Samantha. So Samantha's Sammy. Samantha's Instagram is Sammy SAMMY_3008, and she is the princess of Boys Love. She is absolutely my favorite girl in all of Boys Love. She is our fairy godmother in Boys Love. She's just perfect. Pitch perfect. And more people need to follow her because she's lovely.
She's lovely, and she posted some photos where she's just killing it.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, her recent posts, I was like, get it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's beautiful. Like, that's the thing that bugs the shit out of me. Okay, Thailand is very fond of a thin girl. Like, that's the look, a thin girl. Sammy is not. Sammy's got a little curvature to her. She's not obese by any stretch of the imagination. She's not even really chunky. She's just, like, normal girl shape. She's got hips. She's got tits. She's got curves. But for some reason, because she's not waist thin, she gets stuck as like the comic relief, the girl that no guy wants kind of thing. And it's really shitty because in real life, men would be falling over themselves to be with this girl.
Yeah. She deserves to be a female lead.
Oh, absolutely. And so I just want to show her some love.
I really hope that in the Win Team side story, the B couple is her and her man. Because she deserves, and her man is hot, and I would like to see more of it.
Right? The biggest injustice of Until We Meet Again is the fact that her love story literally got maybe 10 minutes throughout the entire series. She bumps into a guy outside the bathroom, she bumps into a guy outside the swim meet, and then she bumps into a guy after the rap party for her movie project, whatever she did for university. And that's it. We get no other development for them.
We did get a lot of crying, though.
Yeah.
Did we review Until We Meet Again?
Yeah, we already did.
We did?
I'm pretty sure that we did. Come on.
Why do I feel like we didn't?
Because we've done a few of these now, and it's hard to keep track, but I am almost completely certain we reviewed Until We Meet Again. If we haven't, then absolutely we'll do that soon. But I just feel like we did.
I feel like we didn't because I think we started this like right after that ended. Yeah?
I'm looking to see because I'm upset now because I feel like we did this already. And
we did the vampire one, Red Wine and the Dark Kiss, or whatever it's called. I don't think we did Until We Meet Again. We've talked about it at length, you and I. I feel like we've just mentioned it a bunch in like different episodes. But I don't know if we've done an episode dedicated to it. And while you're checking, I'm going to go grab my manga of the week. I forgot it.
Okay.
On the other side of
Wow, we haven't done it. That's amazing. Well, we're not doing it now. Just FYI, we're not doing it now. Like, we're going to do it, but we're not going to do it now. Actually, since we're as a family, as soon as he finishes doing his manga of the week, we need to talk about what the next show is that we're doing because I can't watch Until We Meet Again this week. I'm just really too busy. I've got board meetings several nights a week, so I can't do that. But yeah, we haven't done Until We Meet Again. That's surprising. Because, well, okay, I think I know why we didn't do Until We Meet Again. If I'm thinking correctly, it is because Until We Meet Again ended before we started doing this, and we were in the midst of watching Why Are You and watching Together, and so that's why Until We Meet Again never made it into our reviews. But we will touch on it. We'll definitely make sure that we do it before the Win Team show starts airing because that's important. Or at the very minimum before we review the Win Team series. But yeah, timing wise, it just didn't fit into what we were doing because we have so many other things that we're concluding that we needed to talk about. All right, manga of the week.
So I picked, I think it recently got published in America. It's called Secret XXX. It is, let me read the back. So it's Shohei loves bunnies. He loves them so much he's even taken to volunteering at a local pet shop. Store owner Mito is as sweet and as kind as the fuzzy critters he cares for. And it's not long before Shohei finds himself wanting to cuddle with him as much as the bunnies. But Shohei is hiding a dangerous secret, one that makes his dream an unlikely reality. So basically, he's allergic to bunnies. Shohei's allergic to bunnies. He works at a bunny shop. And this one's interesting because him and Mito get together in the first chapter. So most of this is about them navigating their relationship, coming out to family, things like that. It's very lighthearted. It's very cute. Both the characters are very endearing. There's a couple steamy scenes, but, you know, they're all adults. I think he's almost done with college, and he's, like, right out of college. But it's good. It's cute. It's got cute bunnies. The art's really nice. Let me find a good panel.
So how does he work in a bunny shop if he's allergic to bunnies? Does he take, like, Benadryl or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Something like, this seems like a bad idea, guy.
Yeah. So he's allergic to bunnies. But then you find out what he's actually allergic to. It's the bunny food. He's allergic to the bunny food. This synopsis is literally just, like, the first half of the first chapter. Like, they really don't lead it much into what this is good. Because when I picked this up, I was like, oh, this whole novel is going to be them getting together. Because most boys love, like, one-off novels. Because this is it's just one novel. I don't think there's a sequel. Usually when it's just one manga, usually the whole manga is, like, them getting together. And then the last chapter is, oh, they're finally together. This is, like, they get together the first chapter. Now let's navigate this relationship. But it's good. I like it. It's very cute. I had a good time reading it. It was a good, like, I read it in between work. Like, I was just like, really stressed about work. I'm going to go read my manga real quick. And this was, like, the perfect little read to distract me from work for a little bit.
Perfect. I'm glad that it worked out for you.
Thank you. It was good. So, yeah, I don't know what we're watching next week. What are we watching next week?
I would like to go ahead and do History 2. I think that it's the easiest decision to make is to do History 2. But I want to talk about airing schedules because everything is fucked up right now. So we talked last week, or the week before last, about how Game Boys got postponed. They added 3 episodes, and they took a 2-week break because of COVID restrictions in Manila. So that's a thing. Then this weekend is when the first episode of Still Together aired.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a 5-episode run, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that has to be factored in there somewhere. And then there's another Filipino boys love that's getting a lot of traction online, which is Hello Stranger. And their show ends, I believe it's next weekend is when their show ends. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot going on in boys love, and it's a lot harder now to pace when we're doing our reviews with when show ends because there's so many shows airing at the same time, and a lot of their schedules are being moved around a lot because of COVID. Yeah. So I think probably rather than trying to time ourselves to the end of certain shows immediately, we'll just kind of stick with the history thing and then see what comes up because everything is kind of up in the air right now for so much.
I do think we should try and get to Still Together when it ends.
I would like to. I'm waiting to see what happens. I watched the first episode of Still Together and I already can see a problem.
I haven't seen it yet. That's on my list for today. So.
Well, I'm not going to spoil the what's going on. I'll just say this. When we started Together, we kind of knew what we were looking for from the outset of the story. Mm-hmm. Still Together, by the time the first episode ended, I was like, so what are the rest of the episodes going to be about?
I think they're all one-offs, right? Like, they're all like, this couple, this couple, this couple.
I don't know, because you talk about all the couples in the episode.
Oh.
All of them. So that's why I'm just like, I don't know where we're going here. So it
stay tuned next week.
It is a thing. But yeah, I think we should go ahead and do History 2 because it's about like how we did Mood Indigo and the Pornographer, like in terms of length of time. So it should be fairly easy to wrap up. And then after we do that, we'll see kind of what the timing is to see if we're going to go into Trapped or not. I don't want to make any promises because, again, I don't know what's happening because there's so much stuff out there. Like, I think they've already started principal photography for the next YYY.
Oh, really? Well, that one happened for a while, but I know, like, Love by Chance got confirmed for, like, September 2nd, I think. So, like, the moment, like the week Still Together ends, we get Love by Chance starting and Oxygen, the series. Finally, I was really excited for Oxygen, like, back in December. And then, because of COVID, it was, like, delayed for fucking ever. So that one's coming out. And then I think Tharntype and Manner of Love are supposed to be pretty soon, too.
Yeah, they're doing table readings for Manner of Love. I think Tharntype has already been in rehearsals. So, I mean, there is so much boys love. And I don't know how you guys feel. Tell me if I'm the only one. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
I think I think the problem is when it was just like we were just doing Fry Gays with the Thailand Boys Love earlier this year, and it was like, why, until we meet again, together, things like that. It was like, it was kind of chill, and it was like, oh, we can watch them. But now that it's being added into adding like Filipino Boys Love and how that's picking up as a genre, and like a very saying a lot. People are watching a lot of more Filipino Boys Love. So now we're adding the Fry Gays coming back in Thailand Boys Love, but we're also having all these Filipino Boys Loves to watch too. So it was overwhelming, but I think I don't think it'll be that bad.
I hope so. I mean, once it all washes out, maybe it'll be good.
The other show's ending, and then it's like one or two episodes a week of a different show, you know.
Yeah. It'll get better. Just right now, it just seems like there's so much stuff. And like Filipino Boys Love, by the way, there is so much. So there's My Day, Hooked Up, I think is what it's called, Hello Stranger, Game Boys, Sakura-stan is over. That show sucked. They have another series, like 3 more, My Extraordinary, Kumistra Bros, Omando. Like, Thailand is about to get checked because Filipino Boys Love are coming for their throat, and they are doing it on shoestring budgets, and they're turning product out like this. So it is stressful. And then, like, we're all awaiting the return of the Taiwanese Boys Love, because Taiwan admittedly is probably the king of the Boys Love series.
Right.
Quality wise, acting wise, it's just Taiwan wins. But the last Taiwanese or Chinese Boys Love thing that we saw was Capture Lover, and that was fucking awful. So I don't know. Is Oxygen is Thai, right? It's not. Yeah. Okay, because I want to say the story isn't the story Chinese.
I don't remember.
I don't know, but yeah, I'm waiting for Taiwan to come back, because I mean, if I had to generalize Boys Love by country, Japan is probably OG, but Taiwanese, they've perfected the art, and Thailand just kind of gives you what you want on a more regular, like, pop girl basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. So History 2 next week, and after that is a question mark. So
yeah, so watch this space.
All right.
Thank you guys for putting up with us. This was probably one of our most messy episodes, not for lack of trying. It's just, it was very hard to talk about these two when they're so enmeshed and still talk about them separately. And then this is actually one of those shows where I can honestly say you would do yourself a disservice to watch what we're saying if you haven't watched the show, because there's no way to follow what we're saying if you haven't watched the shows.
Yeah. We didn't have any, like, fun, snarky comments to make this entertaining if you haven't seen the show.
Yeah, like, the most you get from us is like, there's porn. That's really it. So thank you guys again for bearing with us. We really appreciate it, and we will talk to you next week.
All right. Adios.